horizon line is going to be 8 inches from the top of the page. Do y'all want to do this as I do it, or do you want me to just run all the way through it and let you make notes? Run through it. Okay, I'm going to run through it. Okay. My horizon line is 8 inches from the top of the page. I'm going to mark the center of the horizon line. That's going to be 12 inches from the edge of my page. I'm then going to find the vertical line at that center point using a T-square. And then my ruler, because my T-square is not long enough. All right, so I'm going to mark that center line. Jack it off. My collar keeps getting in the video. Okay. Now, station point, where the person is standing. I'm going to put that station point 8 inches below the horizon line. My ruler the right way so I can see what I'm doing. All right. That is where our imaginary person is standing, okay? Looking at a square grid in front of them, okay? Now, we want to indicate that cone of vision. I need the triangle back. Thank you. Okay. So the cone of vision is, we're going to use the 60-degree angle. Now, if I'm looking straight ahead, which I am because I am standing on the station point with one eye closed, you know, all that jazz. So if I'm looking straight ahead is represented by this vertical line. Remember, because we flattened, we're thinking about if I'm standing here, how am I representing that on the two-dimensional surface? So if I'm looking straight ahead and I want to find a 60-degree cone of vision, I'm going to find two 30-degree angles on either side of that center axis. So with one point down at the station point, let's see, I'm going to do this. I'm going to measure, I'm going to make a mark here. I'm going to flip it over. And I'm going to make a mark here. Now, if you have a smaller triangle, you can still do that. You would just make the mark along the outer edge of that of the triangle, wherever the end of the triangle is. But you can still find that cone of vision by finding that angle. That 60-degree angle. Okay. Then, now this is just for us to have a reference of where the cone of vision is. It is not something that is going to be a mark that we're drawing to, right? This is not a measuring mark. This is just for us to understand where the cone of vision is. I want to find that 90-degree angle from the station point that's going to help us measure right angles in perspective. That's why we call them measuring points. All right, so how do I find the 90-degree angle? Well, I can put this down and try to get it straight and figure out exactly where that 90 degrees are. Or, in this case, I can measure the same distance from my cone of vision, from my station point to the horizon line, I can measure that same distance out to the left and right. So the distance from the horizon line to the station point is how many inches? 8, thank you. So I'm going to measure 8 inches in each direction from the center line, and this gives me my left measuring point. Make sure I've got the right one. And my right measuring point. Station point is down here. Vanishing point is here. Horizon line. Okay, are we all good? Okay. So if I connect from the station point to the measuring points, and then I get my compass out, I can check and double check that that is indeed 90 degrees. Okay? Now I'm going to put my front edge of my dance floor right down by the bottom of my cone of vision because I want it to be in perspective. And I'm going to make it 8 inches wide or 8 inches long. So I'm going to go 4 inches to the left and 4 inches to the right of my center line. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the front edge of my dance floor. Now I'm going to measure 8 inches. I'm going to make a tick mark at every inch. And from there, I'm going to the vanishing point from each of those marks. Use a sharp pencil and lightly, I'm holding my pencil at the end, not choked up like I'm signing an autograph. Rows there going to the vanishing point. Here's where the measuring points come into play. We're not thinking about the cone of vision here. We don't measure to the cone of vision. We measure to the measuring points. So from the left corner, I'm going to measure. This is where you want to be light-handed, again, so that you're not making deep marks in your paper that are hard to erase should you want to erase. I'm going to go across to the opposite measuring point from each front corner. Okay. Can y'all see that? Do I need to? I'll make that a little darker. Okay. Now, where the measuring, and one way to know if your measurements are correct is if those two lines intersect right along that center line. If it's off at this point, if those three lines don't intersect at the same place, then you need to go back and check your measurements. Okay? It's easy to get off a little bit. So, at every point where the line to the measuring point crosses one of those lines to the vanishing point, that's going to be an intersection. Now, don't get confused. I'm not measuring to where any lines are intersecting the cone of vision. I want the lines going to the vanishing point and the measuring point. I want to think about that intersection, okay? When you start to get a lot of lines intersecting each other, sometimes it gets hard to know which one you're looking at. All right, so now I'm going to draw my horizontal line to connect, oops, those points. And you will notice that these lines get closer together as they move back in space. But our brains understand that they're not actually getting closer together, that they are drawn in perspective, and you're looking at a square grid. Cool? Okay. Now, I'm going to get a sharp pencil here. All right. So now, to find the vertical wall on the left, I'm going to, from each square on the left edge, I'm going to draw a vertical line. Okay, so I've got my side wall. Everybody cool on how I did that? Anybody not? Okay, now, this is going to be a square room, same height as width. So my front of my room is 8 inches. So I'm going to measure along that side edge 8 inches. And I'm going to make a tick mark at each inch. Now, the midpoint of this edge will not correspond with the horizon line. Okay? Sometimes your impulse is to want to split it equally above and below, but it's not going to line up. So from that top edge, I'm going to go to the vanishing point, the top tick mark. So at this point, if I want to, I can go ahead and erase those vertical lines above that angle, which sort of helps me to keep it in my mind, this space that I'm drawing. Okay, so that's my side wall. How am I going to find the squares on my side wall? So I've already got the vertical lines, right, that are sort of the same concept as the horizontal lines in my floor grid. In my wall, we've just flipped that grid up. So how did I find the lines going away from me in that floor grid? I went from each of these points to the vanishing point. So I'm going to do the same thing over here because I'm just flipping the concept of drawing this grid up onto the wall. So I'm going to go to the vanishing point from each of these points. Now, I can draw that line all the way through to the vanishing point if I want to, or if I'm really sure about my measurement, I can just draw that line to the back edge of the wall. Is everybody cool with that? Okay, good. It just keeps your page a little cleaner, but you want to be sure that your measurements are correct. before you do that. All right, so now I've got my side wall. You good? Okay. Now, we would draw the side wall on the right side exactly the same way. Okay? You good? All right. So now we're going to talk about drawing a prism or a shape inside this space. All right. What I want you to draw is going to be a prism that is 6 inches wide, 7 inches high, and 5 inches deep. Okay? So 6 inches wide, 7 inches high, 5 inches deep. You can draw it anywhere you want to in the space. I am going to, for the purposes here, I'm going to start not on the front of my grid, but I'm going to step into the room 1 square. And I'm going to step away from the left wall 1 square. Okay? So, I'm going to start here. All right. 6 inches wide. So I'm going to count from my starting point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my shape is going to be 6 inches wide. Now, if I want to make it, I'm going to draw that with red so you can see it. If I want to make it 7 inches tall, your temptation is going to be just to flip that ruler vertical and count off 7 inches. But we're not going to do that. Why not? Yeah, because we've stepped into the space. So it's not going to be 7 inches tall. It's going to be 7 units tall. If our room is 7 inches, is 8 inches by 8 inches, each inch is a unit, then I'm going to count up on my grid, because I'm on this second line in, I'm going to count up 7 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right? So from that square, that intersection, I'm going to sketch in lightly a horizontal line. Okay? So then if I draw a vertical line from that front corner where it intersects with that line that I drew from this intersection here, that's going to be the height of my prism. Y'all get that? You're just counting the units up, but you can't, it's not on the front face of the box, it's inside the box. All right, so then continuing on to find my, let's see, how deep? 5 inches deep. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's going to be the base. And how wide are we? 6 inches wide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's easy to find the base because we're just counting those units on the floor, and it's 5 inches deep. Okay, so 6 inches wide, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On the back edge of that cube, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Got it? Cool. All right. So then we've drawn the left front edge, the right front edge. We're going to draw this horizontal line, horizontal line at the top. Y'all are comfortable with how I found the height, right? Anybody not? Okay. All right. If you want to get up and come look over my shoulder, okay? All right. So if the front edge of our prism that we're drawing was on this front edge of the room, we could just measure 7 inches tall. But we're inside the room, so we're measuring along this line because it's pushed into the side of the room. So to get the height, I'm going to start along this bottom edge of the prism on this second line in, and I'm going to count using my grid on the side wall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I'm going to sketch very lightly a horizontal line from that point across. So that gives me the height. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you've taken it from here and we just pushed it in. But you've got to remember you can't measure from that front measurement. All right, so then to complete the front face of my prism, I'm going to go from the right front up to that 7-inch mark. So how do I find the angles of the top of the prism? Yes, we're always going to so I'm lightly going to sketch in from the corner to the vanishing point. Then how do I check how tall my box is going to be on the back face, back plane? So I'm going to go over just like I did on the front, along that same horizontal line. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to run a horizontal line from that point across. So where those lines intersect, so from the corner to the vanishing point, and then my horizontal line at 6 inches, or 7 inches, sorry. And then it should line up vertically I'm off there. My vertical is off. 6. there.